MISY267. Getting credit for consistency. Here's our screen.
Okay, hello everyone. Let's get started. Okay. Wait. So today we are going to start working with Access, or at least get it ready, get it run. Because last session showed me it's gonna take some time to set up this using virtual machine. So before I get started, I want to give you like 1-2 minutes. Any questions about the homework? Have you checked it? Anything is clear? Yes. Let me, yeah. Mhm. Sorry for the confusion. So you're talking about this one, right?
Yes.
So the only here just to be clear, here you're going to create the database design, add the tables and their columns, their fields. The only thing that will change from here to here is that up to that point we had each teacher, okay? You see, each workshop is taught by one instructor, right? One instructor. Each workshop, one instructor. And that's what you're going to show me what is the design look like here. And then here, the only thing that is changing, it says, okay, now assume that actually workshops can be taught by multiple instructors, right? So basically, you had one-to-many relationship between instructors and workshop, right? Now it's changed to many-to-many relationship. So one instructor, many workshops, each workshop, many instructors. And that's what we are going to see how we can solve that relationship, that many-to-many relationship into two one-to-many relationships. Does that make sense? Right? So you need the same method that we used last session. You need a third table, take all those steps and then say, okay, like a workshop instructor. That says the workshop instructor. Great, good question. Any other question? Make sure to download at the end, add your info, view this, and that will show you actually how they look like, right? The tables you have are here, then you have an additional table here with some changes to the whatever you had the workshop table, just 1-2 changes, right? The idea is that in a many-to-many relationship, you remove the link, that was the direct link, and then place it into the third table. So that's what we are showing it here. Good. And then download the the PDF, JSON file and upload it to Canvas. You have until Sunday night. Okay. So today we want to work on, let me see if it's fixed now. Hopefully it's fixed. Okay, great. Yeah, great. It's fixed. So for today's class, we have two files here. One is the link that you can open and you can follow everything that we are going to do in this session with the screenshots. One is a data set. Okay. Let me remove this. There is some issue with the other file, so I'm going to remove this for now. Okay. So download each one of these Excel files, all of them. These are the tables of our database, include the data sets in each table. So you want to download them. And then here's the difference. If you're a Windows user, just download them. Just place them in one file so you can look at them. If you're a Mac user, we are going to use virtual machine. Hopefully you've opened your virtual machine by now. You've gone to the Canvas, clicked on that link that we have on Canvas that we talked about last session. Let me just quickly go there too. Here, this is the one. Use the virtual lab. Click on this link. Then you will see this. Let's see. I'll choose like a learner desktop. I go here, learner desktop. I see access, okay? That's the software I'm going to use. We're going to work on with access. But before that, we need to like upload the data set to the virtual lab. You have two options. You can log into your UD through the virtual machine and just download it from there. Or you can like, if you did this like me, I downloaded the Excel files here and I want to upload them. So there's a panel here, download, upload. I can click on upload and then find where are the like the data sets I have. Okay, select them and then click open and it downloads it and adds it to adds it to your desktop in virtual lab. Okay, so do that and then we can move on. Again, you need to, if you're a Mac user, you're using the virtual machine, you need to download the Excel files and then like upload them, all of them, into the virtual machine. I already have done them, so I can see them here. Okay, so you take some like a minute or two to take this step. Keep that in mind. We're using virtual lab, and unfortunately, virtual lab is a slow. So as much as you work with the virtual lab, you will see sometimes you have to be patient. You have to give it time. It take like sometimes it kind of like it stocks somewhere and like it takes a few seconds to load something. So just keep this in mind. It's not in our control. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Prepare the data set. Mac users. We need more time. Okay, I guess we can next. So now open access. Okay, click on access to open access. So hopefully you've downloaded the Excel files and uploaded them to your like a virtual machine desktop or like a folder in that like in the virtual machine. First, click on the blank database to create a database. Okay, so we're gonna name this. Let's see. You can like you can use this the first one. Okay, so I'm gonna like you can use this name since I already used it. I'm gonna add one to it. Okay, this is a reservation room reservation DB. Okay, room reservations DB. You can name it anything. That's reservation DB. I'll just use one so it doesn't get confused. Okay, you can see it's where it is saved and create. Okay, create. The first step, close this table. Okay, close this table. Anytime you create a new database and you see this new table, just close it so it doesn't add it. We're gonna add the tables ourselves, so we shouldn't have them. Okay, so we need to take a few steps, okay? We need to take a few steps to import the data sets into the database. And like we take the steps for each file. For each file, we take a few steps to import the data set. Okay, these are the steps. Go to the external, you will see an external table. Go to the external data source, click on from file, and then click on Excel. And then you will see this file that indicates that you need to locate it. I'm gonna do that myself here. Go to external data tab, and then new data source, and then from file, and then from Excel. New data source from Excel from data source from Excel. Here, browse, that's where you need to locate that one Excel file. One by one, we're gonna like do the same steps. So let me look at one of the tables I have. Okay, I have the customer. Let's start from the customers table. So I'm gonna select customer table and then open it. Click open. Okay, so you see in this like here I can see my like the address to my like the customers table. Click OK. Okay, So here, some of us, like, we are using virtual machines. Some of us are using different like systems. So you might see some differences in what we see here. Just I can't say why it shows different UIs, but that's what we are. Okay. So here I have a check. Make sure, because our tables already have the column names. So we want to check that so it includes the column names, and then click next. From here, okay, if we already have a column, that is going to be used as a primary key, okay? We already have a customer ID, we are going to use it as a primary key. That's the only change I want to make. From here, indexed, I want to select yes, no duplicate. Yes, no duplicate. Okay, yes, no duplicate. Only for customer ID, and then I can click next. Okay, here we can choose a primary key, a column as a primary key. We can add a new column as a primary key. We can select no primary key. First of all, do not select the first one, either the second one or third one. But now, if we already have a primary key, a column is a primary key, like customer ID, we can select the second one. Generally, that's if we already have it, we're going to use it. But in this session, since our first session is it, I want to do this manually after this. So for each one of them, I'm going to use no primary key. So I can do this in the next step. Okay. For now, we just want to import the data. So for each one of them, select no primary key. Every time we're going to do this, no primary key, next, and finish, and then close. So I added the first table. Do the same steps, do the same exact things for each table, okay? So I can see my table here, customers table. I'm gonna do the same thing for the other tables. Go again to new data source from file, and then Excel, and then again, choose this time, I'll just choose payments. Open, okay, nothing here changes. Here, only for the payment ID, I'm going to select yes, and then no duplicate. Okay. Again, don't forget, in the next step, choose no primary key. Choose no primary key. Okay. We want to do this at least this time manually, but in other times, if we have this, I already have a primary ID, like payment ID as a primary key. I can simply, like, from choose my own primary key, I can select payment method. But this time, let's do this in another step so we can learn from it. Click next, and then finish and close. Okay, do the same thing for each table. Make sure that like you've added all the tables to your Excel file. One more thing I forgot. Like if it doesn't allow you to do this, make sure that you have to log in. It's Microsoft apps. You have to log in to your like user to be able to use them. So that's one of the things. Yes.
What will we put in for the index fields for the payments, table?
For the payments table, I choose like payment ID. And then like yes, no duplicate. That's what I choose for each one.
And we're doing
No primary key. Yes, select the no primary key. Again, let's go through the other Excel files as well. Okay, this is the only session, hopefully, like not this, like this practice, the only one time that we are doing this, so we can see that from next time, I will do this and I will just give you the starter file. So we don't have to take all these steps one at a time. But I wanted you to go through these steps to see how you can import a data set and add the tables. Reservations, open. Okay. Next. Reservation ID. Yes, no duplicate. Okay. Next, no primary key. No primary key. Next, and then finish. And then again. Rooms table, open. No primary key, and then finish. Okay, 4 table, 1 to go. And then reservation items. Anyone has any question? Question?
Which one? Yes, no primary. No primary. No cousins.
For each one of them, select no primary key. We will select this in the next step. Okay. I want you to only have the tables here. If you double click on the table, you can see the data set in the table. So we imported the tables and their data. Again, don't be shy. This is like we're gonna see a we can face so many like issues. Like I learned from last session. I mean, like these are things. There are some things that are common every time we start. It happen. Sometimes I forget to mention, but hopefully now I can remember to mention that as we move forward. Okay. So what do we have here? I want to like before we get to like to the next step, I want to tell you what is this data set. That like this database is about like customers like renting, like there is a building, it rents rents rooms in the building for events. So we have the rooms, we can reserve the rooms, customers can reserve the rooms. So we have customer, okay, can reserve or make a reservation, okay, for room. Okay. So one customer, many reservations, one room, many reservations. Each room can be like room can be reserved many times, but each reservation is linked to one room. That was the initial, like that probably was the starting point. But what we have is a step forward after this. What is it? It's like what we have indicates that actually, like in each reservation, you can reserve multiple rooms, and each room can be reserved multiple times. That's why we have a fourth table as a reservation items. Okay, so instead of having like a many-to-many relationship here, now we have a third table reservation items, third items. Okay, so if you see in the reservation items, you will find room ID and also you will find reservation ID. Okay, so it says one room, many reservation items, one reservation, many items. So now we have this. So in every reservation, people can rent multiple rooms of that building, not just one room. And if I go to the reservation item, you see, I have the reservation ID. I have the, okay, I'm gonna go to the items and to fix this thing. Reservation ID, like ID, room ID, rate at bookings and notes and other fields. And then we have the reservation table, reservation ID, customer ID, event date, start time, end time, purpose, and status. Then we have the rooms table. Okay, you can see room ID, room name, floor, capacity. You see one single source of truth. So the room table only includes information about the room itself, not about the reservation, not about the customer, anything, just about reservation, just about room. And then if I go to the reservation, it includes everything about the reservation and also which customer made that reservation. Using that like customer ID, I can know that. We have the payments table. For every reservation, I forgot that. We have another table, okay, payments table. For every reservation, we might have multiple like payments that are made for a reservation. And that's why we have the reservation ID here. For each payment, we have a reservation ID and amount, and then payment date, payment method, and transaction. Any question about the data set? Okay, great. So I'm going to close this. Next step, we want to apply changes to the table, which is we want to assign the primary keys. Don't forget, you have to close these tables. You're trying to change them. So just for now, make sure that all tables are closed so it doesn't stop you from making changes to the tables. Close the tables. Okay, so we are done with this step. The next step, what we want to do is like go to the table design. Go to table design. We already created the tables by importing the data set. If you didn't have it and you wanted to create a new table, you need to click on this table design here. Click on table design if you wanted to create a new table. Since we already imported the tables and we already have them, we don't need to do that. We just click right on the table itself, click right, and then click on design view. Okay, click right on the table. Each table, you can do that. Click on the click right on the table, click on table design view, and that's when you can see the table, the data type of like its attributes, the data type of each attribute, and its primary key. This is why I said don't assign the primary key, so we can assign it here, so we see how we assign a field as a primary key. So in order to do that, you click on the field itself, and then you should have a design table design tab. And there's like a key here. One way is to click on the like primary key here to assign that field as a primary key. The other way is to select this like row or like click on that row and then click right on that row. Okay. And then you will see a primary key and assign it as a primary key. So I will assign customer ID as a primary key and then save it, okay? I can click right here on the table itself and save it. And once you saved it, you can close it. That's the only change we want to make to this table. So assign customer ID as a primary key and then close the table. Let's go to rooms. Okay, next, let's go to rooms, design view. Okay, I want to assign room ID as a primary key. Again, click on the field itself, click on the primary key, and you will see this key. Make sure that like you've assigned that key and then save it. Save that and close the table. And then go to reservations. Okay, click on reservations, design view. We have a reservation ID. I will assign reservation ID as a primary key of that table. Once you assign primary key to this table, again, save it and then close it. Two more tables to go. Payments. Click right on payments, design view, and then I have the payment ID. I have a reservation ID, transaction ID. Okay, so payment ID as a primary key. And then save it. And then reservation items. I kept this for the last one, okay? Kept for the last one. I probably made a mistake and I signed this, like added a primary key. So you probably don't have it. If you have it, let's remove this. I'm going to delete this row. So click right on, like if you see an ID here, field, it's an extra, probably created since I forgot to select no primary key. So I will delete this row. Okay. So let's wait here. We have reservation ID, we have room ID, we have reservation item ID. Last session, I talked about like association tables. I said there are two ways, like two methods for like what you want to do with the primary key for this table, for an associative table. When you created a table like this to get rid of a many-to-many relationship. You have this, okay? So you have two options. One option is that simply like what we do, add a new column, and then assign it as a primary key, like a reservation ID, like the same thing that we did before. Add a new field, add a new column, and assign that as a primary key, like this one. Okay. What is the second option? That's what we talk about compound keys. We said in this type of table, usually you find a combination of two keys, two fields, or like three fields that can create a unique combination that you can identify that record with that. Now, let's think about this. In the same reservation, the same room, you can reserve it once, right? The same room, same reservation. So reservation ID and room ID together will be unique in this case. That means if I use the combination of them, I will always uniquely identify that record in a table. So in that case, I can select both of them and assign both of them as the primary key together, not just one of them together as a primary key. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to remove this. I had it only to show you we can have this. And like either way, like either you will have this if you later work with it, like a similar case, you add a new field and use that and assign it as a primary key, or you don't have it. Like in this case, I'm going to remove this row. Okay. Okay, so I only have reservation ID, room ID, rate at booking, and notes in this table. I only have those columns. Then I will select both of them. I need to select both of them at once. Okay, you see, I have to select them at once. You can't select one by one. Select both of them and then click on primary key. Okay, or like click right and assign as a primary key. That way you're indicating that together are the primary key of this table. Okay, reservation ID is not a primary key of this table. It's a foreign key. Room ID is not a primary key of this table. It's a foreign key here. Together, reservation ID and room ID together are the primary key of this table. That's what like the database is interpreting it when you select together and assign them as a primary key. Okay. It doesn't make any changes to what we do. It's like what it uses as a way to connect the tables. One more thing, like if I had the data set, I imported the data set. Before this importing the data set, I tried to make sure that like the keys are unique, like basically the numbers I used on those fields. For some reason, if I made a mistake and when I'm importing a table and like adding a column as a primary key, if I think I try to attempt to add it as a primary key and there is a duplicate there, it won't allow me to do it. So basically it automatically checks to make sure that there is no duplicate in that column. So that's one thing it does when you try to assign a field as a primary key. I'm going to save it. Yes.
You make those two keys again?
Great. Yes, sure. So I will remove that. Okay. You see, when I removed it, it removed both of them because you assign them together. So I have to select both of them together. You see, first select both of them together and then click on primary key. Okay. Let me try to select one. I'm going to select one and click on primary key. And then I'll select it. You see what happens? It is switching. Okay. When I'm trying, like it's kind of switching, it's not allowing you to do that. And then I have to select both. Let me save it. I actually want to save this. Okay. Okay. Let's see what happened. The changes you requested to the table were not successful because they would create duplicate values. Why? Room ID here is not a primary key, it's a foreign key. We would have multiple records in that table with the same room ID. That's why when you attempt to just select one of them as a primary key, it says there's duplicate. See, we said one room, many records in that table, right? So we would have the same room ID repeated multiple times throughout that table. So if you try to choose one of them as a primary key, it says there is duplicate. There is duplicate here and you cannot select them. the one that makes this unique is the combination of room ID and reservation ID. That makes it unique. That's why we can like create a primary key. If you want to do this, I can actually let me try to open the table. It doesn't allow me because I'm in the design one part. Let me just assign both of them as a primary key, save them, and let's go back. I'm going to save them and see it work. Okay. I want to open the reservation ID to tell you, okay, I cannot choose just reservation ID as a primary key. I will find reservations, records with the same reservation ID. Let me see. You see here? I have two like records in this table for the same reservation ID. So one, I cannot choose reservation ID as a primary. How about room ID? You see room ID 7, I have multiple records that have the room 7 because that room was like reserved multiple times. So, but again, there are duplicates. What happens that like one become unique is that the combination of room ID and, okay, the combination of room ID and reservation ID will always be unique. Look at all the records in that table. You won't find the same reservation ID, the same room ID. Okay. And that makes it unique. That's how, like, that's why we were able to assign both of them together as the primary key. Okay. So far, so good. Any question? Wow, this went much smooth than like the last session. It took so much time. Okay. So we've added this. Okay, this is, I remember from last session, I have to remember. We are going to add the relationship between the tables. So far, we only assigned the primary keys. Now we want to add the links between them. Before doing that, you want to make sure that you don't have any table open here. If you have a table open here, close them, because you're going to try to attempt to create the links between them. If there is a table open, it won't allow you to do it. So make sure there is no table open. Once there is nothing is open here, go to database tools and there is a relationship button here. Okay. In the database tools, there is a relationship. Click on that. Okay. So let me see. I'm going through this part. Okay. I also have like a screenshots of each one of them and like explanations here. We can review them later if you want to like go through these steps again. Okay, so in the database tools, relationships, click on the relationships. Okay, when you click on the relationships, you see white space here. This is the space that you need to drag every table to the space. Drag, click on one table and then drag it here. Click on each table and drag it here. Okay. I will organize them like this. Okay. It is time to double check whether you like applied all the like changes to your tables. Check every table. See, the customer ID should be the primary key. If that is correct, the reservation ID should be the primary key. Is that correct? Your payment ID should be the primary key. Is that okay? Check each one of your tables, and if you see anything that is different from this, you have to go back and update that, change that. How, and since you already added to the table, let's say I forgot to add the primary key here. First, I need to hide that table from here. Okay, click right on the table, click on hide table, and then go back to the, like, again, which one was it? Room. So again, go back to design view and then apply that changes, save it, then go back and add the table to the relationship, okay? So make sure that everything is similar to what we have here. Room ID, primary key, room ID, reservation ID, payment ID, customer. Good? Yes.
Get two primary keys.
Oh, so here, I'm going to remove this. Okay, I will go back to the reservation items. Okay, I will remove them. So here I have the, like, make sure that you only have these columns in the table: reservation ID, room ID, rate booking, and notes. Then select both of them. Once you select both of them, then you can like select like primary key and then add the primary key. Work? Good. Cool. Yes. Okay. Then again, I have to come back here and add the table back. Okay. Here, we're going to add the relationships. Okay. So I'm going to add the relationships. We talked about this in the last few sessions about the importance, like what is a primary key, what is a foreign key. And when we have a foreign key, that means there is already exists a record in the other table. Like for example, if like when I have a customer ID in the reservation table, already exists a customer in the customer table with that specific ID. Okay? Yes, the customer already exists in the table, and then we add a reservation for it. A room already exists, and then we add a reservation and like make a reservation for that table, for that room. So the system, okay, first, we need to try to connect the tables. I will find the key where it is the primary key, Customer ID is the primary key in the customer table itself, just by itself is the primary key of customer table. I will click on that and then I start to drag it. Okay, I click on the customer ID and then drag it. One by one, you have to drag it wherever you see customer ID. Wherever you see customer ID. Where do I see a customer ID? I only see it here. So I'm gonna drag it here and like leave it there. Like leave the like button, and that's when it shows up. Okay, so I drag the button and like here on top of that like customer ID, and then let it go, and that's when it shows up this panel, and we see customer ID. Okay, here we have to check all these three. Okay, enforce in referential integrity, cascade update related fields, cascade delete updated fields. What do they mean? Enforce referential integrity. Referencing it, right? Integrity means that if you're trying to add a new record to the to the reservation table for a customer, you have to check the integrity, check that the customer already exists with that ID, and then add the reservation. So that's what you're trying, like what you're saying to the system. If you're gonna like anytime you're gonna add a reservation for a customer, check the integrity, check it that the customer exists. One. What is the second one? Cascade update related fields. Okay. So if there is an update to the source, to the reference, everything after that should be updated. For example, what happens if a customer deletes their account? Or we remove a customer's account from the system? That should cascade to everything else, because we said for reservation for a customer, the customer should exist in the customer table. So if it doesn't exist anymore, it should cascade to everything else that is linked to. So that means you have to remove every reservation from the reservation table for that customer if you're trying to delete the customer. And this should be done first. First, delete the reservations for that customer, then delete the customer itself, because one is a prerequisite for the other one. So if you're a customer, like you've been using like Amazon for purchasing items, and then at some point you want to delete your account, once you try to delete your account, it will go first to delete your order records. Once it's done deleting all the records for your all the order records, then it goes to the customer table and then deletes your customer info from that table. Okay, so that's how it always happens. First, those that depend on the other one. One depends on the other. So by checking this, we want to make sure that we have an in referential integrity. That's how we make sure. One more thing, which I could have mentioned it before. You don't need to go back here, but since we are talking about this, I want to go to the design view of customer table, and I want to go back to the reservations design view. When you add a field, okay, two fields, customer ID is a foreign key here, customer ID is a primary key here, and we are going to use that to connect them, right? You always want to make sure that both of them have the same data type, have this exact same data type. So here, customer ID is a number. If I try to choose like a text here, if I forget that I have to specify it as a number because initially it is set to number, data type to number. When I'm creating the table and I change this and I select something else, and now I try to connect them, it's not going to allow you to do that because it says the data types are different. These are two different fields. You're trying to connect two different fields. That's one thing you should always remember. Whenever you're creating new tables and then adding something as a foreign key, the data types always have to match. Like this is one of those things that like sometimes create a mistake. We make mistakes because we go over like creating so many tables and connections and like we forget to check the data type and then it becomes a problem. Okay, let's move on with the other ones. I have here reservation ID here is a primary key of that table. Where do I have reservation ID? I have the reservation ID in the payments, and also I have the reservation ID in the reservation items. So I'm going to drag one by one, check each one of them, and then create. Drag reservation ID here as well, check these three, and then create. The last one is the room ID. Room ID here is the primary key. I'm going to pick it up, drag it wherever I have the room ID. And we know room ID here is a foreign key. So I'm going to check this again. Now we see the one-to-many relationships, right? One many relationship, one many relationship, one many relationship, one many relationship, one-to-many relationships between the tables. Now you've connected the tables inside this database and they're related to each other. Okay. Good. Any question? Okay, I'm gonna save this. Let me just save it and then close. Okay, save and close. Okay. So save and close, we can talk about this later. We want to go and move on to like create query. Okay, what's a query? That's what we are going to actually get info from the database or like update data into the database and like other like tasks, like, you know, adding a new record and so on. In the create tab, we have query design in this query tab. I'm sorry, the create tab. We have a query design. If you click on query design, then you will see this panel, okay, this view. So we have two panels, two tabs. One is here, one is there. That white space is where we specify the tables. And then here we will create the queries. Before doing that, let's go back to the slide, okay? So every query we create, we're going to use those fields to add columns and then like apply the changes, okay? But one of the important parts here is the top part. Here, you're going to add the tables. You're going to add the tables that you're going to use in that query. Let me show you what the query looks like, okay? This is one query. What is that query? Like this is a question, okay? Every query is just one question from the database. The question is, create a query that shows customer first name, customer last name, city, state, and email address. The output table. The result of every query will always be a table. It's a table. You're creating an output table. The output table should show first name, last name, city, state, and email of a customer, of all the customers that we have, okay? So that's the question. You're trying to query the database. Ask that question. Who are our customers? I want to get a table of the customers. So that's one query. If you read that question, where, like asking this question from yourself, where do I get this data? In which table do I have these data? Data about first name, last name, city, state, and email. In which table or tables? Where do I have them? Only the customer table, right? Only the customer table. These columns are in the customer table, and we can get them from the customer table. So this space here is where you specify that. You specify that like my query is going to use from like this table and that table. In this case, we only have one table, okay? So that means we only use one table. And how do we use it? You drag that table into the space. Only the table that you're going to use in that query, you drag that table into the space. Okay, only that table. If you needed more tables, like you read the query and said, okay, I'm also looking for the reservations, then you will add other tables. Like I can find the reservations from the reservation table, so I add the reservation table here too. One check, always check this. Do you see one-to-many relationship in your case? Do you see that? If you don't see it, that means that like probably when you were creating the relationships, you forgot to check all those three checks. You have to check them. If it doesn't show you one and exactly many, that means like you probably forgot to, when you specifying the relationship between these two tables, you forgot to check all those three. If I notice that I don't need this table, I will click right on that table and then remove that table from the space, okay? And that's what I have here. So I added the table I'm looking for. Now I want to build the query. Okay? The next step is building the query. Where do we create the query? In this panel, in this part, okay? What is that? It says, let me see why we have this order here. Okay, so we have multiple rows in this side, okay? You see, the first row is field, the second row is table, then it's sort, then it's show and criteria and or. Since we stopped here last session, I will talk about only the field, and that's where we stopped this session. So the query is asking you to show first name, last name, city, state, and email address. How do I create the query? From the table, if I have the field in the table, I will click on that field, okay, on that column, and double click on that column. Once you double click on that column, it shows you here in the field. In the field row, you always see the name of the column. In the field row, you see the name of the column. You can also like select it from here. Once you add the table there, from here, it shows up. It shows up here. You can also select it. So you have two options. Once you add the table to this space, it loads up all the like the columns of that table. So you can select it from here or just double click on each one of these that you want to show in the output. So I want the first name, I want the last name. Okay, you see automatically it adds the table too. I want the last name, I want in the output the city and state. City, state, and email address. Create a query that shows customers' first name, last name, the state, and the create the query. So here is a query design view, to create the query here. And then we run it. How do we run the query? Here we have a red like sign. Here run. Okay, so I created the query. Now I will run it and I will see the table. Okay, customer's first name, last name, city, state, and email address. Okay. That's what we are going to do. We're going to ask questions from the database, and that the queries are that. We are going to design the queries that like get that data from from the database and show it as a result. Sometimes we update an info, sometimes we remove a data. And I can see all the customers' info. If I want to go back to the design view, so this is the tape output view, okay? Two things, output view, query view, output view, query view. This is output view. Here I have a view. I can select it to go back, or also I can click right here and then go back to design view. Design view, that's where I design my query. I can save the query, click here, save. I will just name it as a query 1 and save it. And then I can see my queries here. Any question? Okay, so I think if you save it, you still can come back to it. Like if you're like you're using virtual machine. If you want to make sure that like it's saved, you can go to the file and then go to file and then save as, and then click on save as, and then save it to a specific location. Anything that you have on your desktop in virtual machine, it will be there. It doesn't get removed. So if you place it on the desktop in a folder, you will have it. You can save it, but you have to like save everything and then choose a folder to save. You can connect it to your drive and save it in your Google Drive to have it for next session and like later. That is it for today. Before, like, we are not going to upload anything for this session. We only take the attendance and continue this presentation next session and do that next session. So let me just give you the key. No